Welcome to the Varsity Voices podcast, where every week we bring you the inside information and insight on Chicago Catholic League football. Make sure you subscribe, follow, and like us on wherever you're listening at. And you can also find us on X, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Just search for the Varsity Voices Chicago Catholic League Sports. If you want to comment, feel free to leave us a comment or email us at varsityvoices312@gmail.com. I'm Joe Farvelletti. Oh, there he is. There he is.
It's our guy. Yep. Timing is everything. He knows.
That is Zuko. For anybody listening. And Zuko is he's the sponsor of our weekly award called Dawg of the Week, right?
He is. It's Zuko's Dawg of the Week, and you get a little taste of just why if someone happens to stray onto our patio, what Zuko's all about. So he's. I said before, when I play with him in the backyard, I feel like he's the perfect defensive player. So it's a defensive award, Joe. We watched some games, got some information about some other games, talked to some people who were at games, and so we had a good group to choose from. A lot of great performances out there this week. So as part of our recap, we will be designating our first Zuko's Dawg of the Week.
Zuko's Dawg of the Week. I love it. Yeah, and I'm sure whoever... Oh, there he is again. Zuko's Dawg of the Week. Yeah. Whoever ends up getting the inaugural award. Gosh, what is wrong with me?
Prognosticus.
Is got a real treat in front of them, don't they, Dan?
Oh yeah. It should be a lot of fun, And like I said, it's we're coming up with something to present to the Dawg of the Week, and so hopefully we can make kind of a big deal out of it, and the players have some fun with it.
Yeah. So let's get to some of the first week games here, Dan, and the scores. We wanted to give people the scores, maybe people who haven't had a chance who are interested and haven't had a chance to look around and see what the scores throughout the Chicago Catholic League were for the first weekend of play. So, we talked about starting in the white division, right?
Yeah. So Joe, the white division combined score for the white division this week was 207 for the white to 21 for their opponents. 207 to 21. So they had some lopsided games. There was which we kind of thought it might be the case, maybe not to the extent that it was, but quickly just going through some of these scores here, Joe, if that's okay. So we've got St. Lawrence opened up with a whopping 72-8 victory over Chicago Noble Academy. That was never much of a game. Montini won 49-0. It sounded like they dominated Hyde Park early on and got the easy victory there with the shutout, which is always a good sign if you're thinking about being a Dawg of the Week.
Right.
Carmel and Mundelein. So Carmel beat Grayslake Central 56-13.
Yep.
So another easy one.
Another dominating performance there.
Yeah. And finally, we have in our what looks to be the closest game of the week was a 30-0 shutout victory for Fenwick over Oak Park River Forest.
Right, and that was played yesterday, right? That was a Saturday game.
Yeah, that was a Saturday game. Yeah, so really good performances by the White. And Joe, this is where our Dawg of the Week can be found.
This is where our Dawg of the Week can be found.
So, without further ado, Joe, we are going to award this week's Dawg of the Week, Zuko's Dawg of the Week, to Isaac Alexander, Montini Catholic, number 28. Defensive back who had 2 interceptions and a pick 6 in Friday night's victory. So he had a great performance in what sounded like a smothering defensive performance and a dominating performance from a team we like a lot, Montini. I think they're going to have a great year. I would not be surprised to see them jump into the top 25 this week. But for our dog of the week, Zuko's dog of the week, once again, goes to Isaac Alexander, defensive back for Montini.
Yeah, congratulations, Isaac. Well deserved for sure. Had a great first game of the season, and Montini, Dan. That's one that you thought got snubbed a little bit, right?
I did, and it might take until week 3 or 4 maybe to see them go into the top 25, but I certainly think they belong there, and so they had a performance that kind of showed that. And again, the competition ramps up for all these teams as the season goes on. So we'll see how that plays out. I don't know, Joe. As far as our prognostications, the prognosticus was not great. Not great.
Well, what about the white division? Let's just take a quick look here and see how we did, Dan.
This one we nailed.
This one we nailed.
We nailed it.
We picked St. Lawrence, we picked Montini, we picked Carmel, and we picked Fenwick. So we're good here.
Kudos to us. Thanks for joining, everybody.
Right. And that's our episode for today.
We went 4-0. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe not quite so good in some of the other divisions, but kudos to the white division, for a great first week here.
Yeah, they did it. They did a great job, Joe.
Yeah. Let's go to the red division, Dan. And,
okay.
Here we've got Marmion, De La Salle, Leo, and Marion Catholic. So what do we got here for the first weekend of games?
This division went 2-2. So Marmion Academy, that's a game we followed. They had a comeback victory, 21-15 over Oak Forest. Sounded like a really exciting game. Looked like an exciting game, and Marmion did a really nice job of sticking with it and scoring late to take the victory in week 1. So Marmion got the win. De La Salle struggled. We had this one on for a while too. De La Salle struggled against a pretty good Argo team. They lost 45-0, Joe. So this was lopsided in the other direction. And we talked maybe a little bit about, I think they had some numbers issues, and I think that reared its ugly head for De La Salle in this game. And I'm a little nervous for them going forward. Our coach Harold Blackman, my Northwestern guy, they had a tough start. I think he probably thought, that they might go through some growing pains. So he's going to have to tough it out this year.
Yeah, it's a really tough first week for them from what we heard. Obviously the loss, but I think the way they ended up losing, and they had some injuries which really hurt them, throughout the game, and really hit their numbers too, because they don't have big numbers to begin with. So any injuries for them is really going to cause a problem, and that happened right away week 1. So not a real good first game of the year for De La Salle, but hopefully things will be looking up for them as they go forward.
Yeah, and Leo, the next one in that division, they lost as well. So they lost 41-21 to a good Genoa Kingston team. I think that may have been, we talked about, that was kind of a scramble to get that game scheduled. So they were able to do that. And I think they came away, coaches don't like to hear this, maybe a bit of a moral victory, that played better in the second half and had some things that they can build on that they can take from that game.
Yeah, I think they outscored Genoa Kingston in the second half 16-6, I think is what I saw. So, definitely something that you can point to from a standpoint of Coach Stevenson at Leo, for next week, maybe something to build on. You really look for any kind of threads of success, I think, in any of these games, and try to keep the morale up. It's only the first game of the year,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I think Coach Stevenson will definitely do that, and it sounds like right away that's what he was looking at. Let's pick out some positives, and let's go forward. Let's go to week 2.
Yeah, yep, and another team, Joe, with a great defensive performance, Marion Catholic. So Marion Catholic was at Rich Township and shut them out 25-0. So that was a great victory for them. I think that was one we predicted, and their defense showed up. Coach Lopez told us it might be their defense might be ahead of their offense early on, but they did a nice job to come away with the victory.
Yeah, sure enough, they did, and it's always good to win that first game of the year, right? To get that under your belts, and everybody's always really nervous about the first games, and you don't quite know what's gonna transpire until your kids actually get out there on the field playing against somebody, some good competition, and Marion Catholic showed up. And they've got a win to show for it, and they go on from here too now. So,
yeah. So moving on, Joe. So we go from the red right to the purple. So working right back up, we're going in reverse alphabetical order.
Reverse.
So yes, we like to mix things up. So
we do.
Yeah.
So here we got Viator, DePaul Prep, St. Patrick, and Bennett.
Yeah. So we had a couple easier ones, I guess. By far the easiest was St. Viator, which we thought was going to be the case, taking on Riverside University, Mirror of Wisconsin, 62-0. So our third shutout to talk about. So third or fourth maybe, and we kind of thought that this was going to be the case. Weren't sure, if maybe Muir might be able to scratch across a touchdown or some points, but St. Viator, early on looks as advertised, going to be pretty good.
Yeah, they are going to be good. I didn't see the actual stats, for some of their key players like Tremet and their running back whose name escapes me right now, but. Looking at the score, when you score 62 points, the stat line is gonna be pretty good too.
Yeah, and I would guess they played a lot of people. So that's good. They played a lot of folks. Joe, Bennett Academy. So Bennett traveled to Country Club Hills to play Hillcrest in what I think people thought was going to be a tighter game than maybe what the score ended up. Bennett wins 35-13. So a good victory to open the season on against Hillcrest, who I know a lot of folks thought was going to be pretty good. I think Bennett's passing game showed out real well, and just like Coach New told us in the preseason interviews, the Lukes were Ryan Kabaki at quarterback, and the Lukes, Doyle and Wilds were kind of the stories of the game offensively for Bennett.
Yeah, and it was kind of an unknown, right? We knew about Kabaki and knew he's going to be good at quarterback, but Bennett lost a lot of their top receivers last year. They are kind of a pass heavy offense. So, the first game of the year, you're wondering who's going to step up. Coach New mentioned a couple guys, and sure enough, they were there, and they put a lot of points on the board against what's supposed to be a really good Hillcrest team, and some people picking them top 10 in their division. So
yeah. So funny, it's like these coaches coach their players all summer. They know what they're talking about.
Yeah, well, we talked about Bennett, and their schedule is, of course, a meat grinder, right? So we talked about them, and this first game, getting a win here is huge for them. So
yeah, and it's kind of across the board with the Catholic League. You want that that preseason, or I should say, out of conference, victories. So you see some scheduling stuff, but this was kind of predicted to be one of the tougher ones for the Catholic League. So Bennett comes away with the victory. And then Joe, we've got two games that were great games. Let's start with DePaul Prep. So DePaul Prep beat Deerfield High School 35-28.
Yep.
So that is really nice from a standpoint where they flipped the script from last year. Kind of something that we thought might happen. We may have picked Deerfield.
I think, Dan, I've got to be honest here. I think I remember this. I picked Deerfield and you picked DePaul Prep.
Woo-hoo! Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So,
but
yeah.
I do think I said that I'd be really happy if DePaul Prep was able to pull this out.
I'm pulling for them. Yeah. Absolutely. I it's always cool to see, teams that have kind of pointed to a year start off like this and get a victory. I'm sure they feel great. And Joe, we couldn't go 4-0 in this conference because we had two kind of conference opponents. So St. Pat's took on Notre Dame Niles this week in a rivalry game, one that is really, really hyped and a big deal within those two schools. St. Pat's fell a little short, so they lost that game 15-13 to Notre Dame. I think you may have been following that a little bit. What were your thoughts on that game?
I was following that game, Dan, and 15-13. Obviously, it's a defensive, defensive-minded game, kind of. And both defenses showed up, and they look really good. Both defenses, both St. Pat's and Notre Dame look to be huge up front on the offensive and defensive line. The only thing which was, a little disconcerting for both of these teams going forward is they've got to find their offense, Dan. Neither of them could, seem to get the ball moving, either running or passing. Just looked a little bit sluggish. So, I'm sure the coaches are back to the drawing board and say, hey, we've got to put up a lot more points than 15 or 13 points as we go forward if we're going to win more games.
Yeah, and we'll see if that's a product of two really good defenses or two struggling offenses. We'll start to have that take shape in week 2.
Yeah, we will. All right. Yeah, we're looking forward to week 2. Already. Here we
go.
Oh,
yeah. It rolls right along. That's for sure.
All right. So how about the Orange Division? We've got Marist, Joliet Catholic, Providence, and, we just talked about Notre Dame. So how about Marist, Joliet Catholic, and Providence?
So, Joe, we start with kind of the blowouts, for lack, that's because that's what they are. So Joliet Catholic, 50-22 over Iowa City. So that was a very typical Joliet Catholic game, and I think you were watching that pretty closely. And Joliet Catholic, just kind of marches, and they kind of grind away, wear you down. You think the score is a lot closer than it is, and you look up and it's like we're losing 50-22. And so that's just kind of how they play, and so that was kind of the biggest blowout of that division, of the Orange Division. So the other games were really good. So we had Marist take on Morgan Park of the Public League, where they beat Morgan Park 29-16 in what's a great start for what a lot of people think is going to be a really good Marist team.
Yeah, and I think, if you just look at the rankings, right, the preseason rankings, I think Morgan Park was up there maybe 15. In the
I did see that. Yeah.
And it looked like Marist, it was a really good game, obviously, but Marist, looks like to be the real deal here, right? And with their quarterback now, that they've got, I'm looking for his name right now. Trying to think who that was, but anyways, they really kind of spread the ball around a little bit. The quarterback really played well, and I think that win over Morgan Park in week 1, which was a really tough opponent, is that's something they can hang their hat on at least for week 1 and move on from here. Yeah,
they had a great start and but it wasn't necessarily the game that of the division. So that now we've got Notre Dame. Obviously, we talked about Notre Dame, St. Pat's. Notre Dame gets the victory, 15-13 over St. Pat's, and you talked about that. But Joe, I watched a great game at Wheaton North Providence, and I know we talked about it. You had some skin in the game with some of the relationships that you've got,
Yep.
and so you took a lot of grief for picking Wheaton North, and it was shaky at times, and boy, I thought Providence was going to pull it out. The biggest thing about this game, other than the final score, which was Wheaton North 23, Providence 22, Wheaton North scoring on the last play of the game through a touchdown pass on the last as time ran out to win this game 23-22. But Joe, we talked about it on Friday Night Blitz. This was one of those games where there were stoppages of play all over the place. There was cramping like you can't believe. Both sides. It was both teams, and so it was really something else. But a hard fought game. A lot of great hitting. Some big plays called back. People upset about some of the calls and some tough calls. So a game that came right down to the wire. And say they went back and forth. They did, and it was kind of an old school game, which we thought it might be with Wheaton North just literally, getting just enough to pull out the victory.
Yeah, I mean, these two teams, and you watch this closely, but these two teams were really evenly matched, right? And it looked like, I know if you're a Providence fan, you probably are blaming some of this on the referees at this point. I think the Providence had 15 penalties for 136 yards versus, I don't know, Wheaton North might have had half that number of penalties. And especially right at the end of the game, some of the penalties which put Wheaton North right there, on the brink of scoring a touchdown, or put them right at the 9-yard line or 6-yard line, for that last play of the game. So, that's always tough to swallow if you're a Celtics fan. But, again, really good game. Providence looks really good, like we thought they were going to look. For them, it's like, all right, let's regroup and let's move on to week 2.
That's all you can do. You can do. Yeah.
All you can do. Yeah. All right, so that was the orange division, Dan. Let's go to the green.
All right, so the green. There were some good games in the green division as well. So good games all over the place here. Yeah, these were really entertaining, close games that came down to the fourth quarter, in some cases overtime. So we'll start with that overtime win with IC. IC beats St. Mary's Southside Catholic of Missouri, just out in St. Louis, 27-26 in overtime.
Yeah,
great football game. Again, back and forth. I think IC may have come back in this game to tie it late and go ahead and win it in overtime. Really big win for IC. Their whole week was in scramble mode, trying to make sure they have a game. So this turned out really well for them. I'm sure they feel great about the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, even though from a talent perspective, you think IC, it's not going to matter, who they play week 1, right? But you're preparing, for that week 1 game, and then when kind of this wrinkle is thrown in at the last minute as far as who your opponent is going to be, and then you've got to kind of switch gears, and now you're not, you don't really have time to prepare for a new opponent. So, all of that was, kind of stacked against IC, and they had to travel out there, right? All the way to St. Louis. So
yeah, when it's not part of the plan and you haven't thought about it all summer and you thought you were doing one thing and everything gets flipped upside down, it's challenging for high school kids. It's challenging for anybody, but especially high school kids. And so kudos to IC for pulling that one out.
Yeah, for sure.
Joe, the other kind of, I think it was a comeback victory, was St. Francis beating Chicago Public School Kenwood 27-21. A great win for St. Francis. I think Kenwood is a pretty good team, and so St. Francis, I think you may have been following this, Joe, but was St. Francis down in this game?
St. Francis was down in this game and scored 2 touchdowns to take the lead. I think in the third, one in the third quarter, then one in the fourth quarter, and then their defense showed up and really held Kenwood. But it came right down, Dan, to the last couple minutes of the game. Kenwood was driving at the end of the game, and just ran out of some time. But Kenwood's got some really talented players, as we talked about before, in our preview of this game. And they gave St. Francis all they could handle, right? But, defense stepped up, and the offense did enough to put enough points on the board in order to kind of squeak out a win here for St. Francis.
Yeah, and I know they're breaking in some new folks offensively, but their tailback is back, and he's a good one, so they can lean on him while they're figuring out the passing game. But Joe, that kind of takes us to another great game. That was kind of what we predicted, a barn burner, high scoring, and that was Nazareth defeating Kankakee 37-30. Another game that came down to a late score and late stop for Naz. They did a great job. This one was really exciting. Was kind of back and forth with a lot of big plays and exactly what we thought that we would get from Naz and Kankakee.
Yeah, and Naz, they get over the hump this year, so to speak, right? Last 2 years they've been last year they lost to Kankakee, right? And I think maybe the year before as well. And we know how they started out last year with 4 straight losses. So for them to get this one in a tough game against a tough opponent, against Kankakee, and start off on the right foot is huge for them this year.
Yeah, their experience really showed out. There never looked to be any sense of panic whatsoever by the players, and so I think that was definitely a difference in this game.
Yeah, for sure.
And Joe, we've got to finish with a game we both got wrong. So that is St. Rita and Sandburg. So you and I kind of got some, we started doing a little research and both came away, I think, thinking Sandburg is pretty darn good, and they are. But St. Rita was able to win this game 27-17, and that was at St. Rita, but they did a great job in a very hard fought game. I think that obviously it's 10-point victory, but it was closer than that for most of the game, and one that St. Rita should be really proud of taking the W on this.
Yeah, and Nick Herman, the running back, sounds like really had an outstanding game with a couple of touchdowns, maybe more than that, more than 2, but. He showed up in a big way for St. Rita, and really, it seems like that was the difference, right? It might have come down to just a running back, Nick Herman, kind of taking the game and taking it by storm, and willing the Mustangs to win here.
You're going to need some of that. You're going to need to lean on your studs, throughout the year sometimes, and guys who I love that you say willing it, because there are players you see that do that, and you can actually see it when you're there. Like this player has just put this team on his back. So, yeah, Herman did that for St. Rita. So that's really exciting for them. A great way to start.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so we've gotten through all the divisions except one, and that's the blue, Dan.
Yeah, some pretty exciting football here too. Some surprises.
Surprises. And, we've got Brother Rice, Mount Carmel, Ignatius, and Loyola. We talked a little bit about the Mount Carmel game because that was Thursday, right?
Right.
But, really good game there. What was the final score again of that?
It was 42-38. Mount Carmel loses to Hun out of New Jersey. Hun School out of New Jersey, which was just loaded. They looked like a college team, and Mount Carmel stuck with them stride for stride. Great play by Jack Elliott, throughout the game. again, I'll say it again, one of the greatest QB sneaks at 3-yard QB run.
Right.
I'm sorry, it might not have been a sneak, but a QB run that I've ever seen. Yeah, really, really good game. And, I think despite Mount Carmel being as good, as storied as they are, I think they felt okay about it, knowing, looking a little bit deeper at just how loaded Hun is on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, the one concern I have after watching that game, Dan, is I understand how talented the Hun High School is, although Mount Carmel is extremely talented as well. But the defense, especially the pass defense for Mount Carmel, some guys were just plain wide open with not even a defender even close to them. Which is probably a little bit concerning for Coach Lynch, but I'm sure he will be on that big time this week because that game's on film now, right? And everybody, their future opponents are going to think, maybe we can throw the ball on Mount Carmel.
Yeah, well, I mean, Hun's quarterback was near perfect. He was outstanding. I do think that, and I saw it in a couple different games I watched. I mentioned this, that early on, these defenses are so fired up. They want to fly to the football to do things that Hun did. Hun did a lot of rollout throwbacks, looking into the backside of the defense. And, Mount Carmel's players had overcommitted, thought the play was away from them, and it left some wide open receivers. So I fully expect that to be taken care of, but you're right. Being on film, I also expect that you're going to see it week after week, just to see if people can get an edge. But I have no doubt that Mount Carmel is going to rise up and be kind of what we thought they were this year.
Yes, I'm full agreement there. Extremely talented. They had some players step up. That. A little bit younger. So I think their sophomore wide receiver had a really good game, which bodes well for them. They already have a ton of weapons, and now they've got some other guys who are stepping up too. So it's going to be a good year for Mount Carmel, I'm sure.
Yeah. And same thing you say for Brother Rice got off to they won huge, 50-0. Tyler Lofton 3 touchdowns in the first half. Their starters sat the entire second half, so that was we thought maybe Phillips might be able to give him a better game. So it could mean that Brother Rice is really good. Probably thinking that they're in as good a position as anyone to unseat Loyola and Mount Carmel this year.
Yeah, and when you add a talent like Lofton, right, to your team that's already very talented, that's definitely going to make a difference. And in this first game, we saw the type of difference that he can make for this Brother Rice team.
Yeah, they look to be good, and Christian Pierce back defensively, a shutout. So I think he's back and ready to go. So I'm really interested to watch Brother Rice. This is this game next week, Marist against Marist. The Battle of Pulaski. That could be the game of the week, Joe, because these are two teams that both figure to be very good this year, and both kind of, hard to say these schools like this are on the rise, but I think they both have big plans for their season.
Yeah, some really good games coming up this weekend. We're already looking forward to it, Dan.
Yep. And so, Joe, kind of the one blowout, well, I guess the one blowout win for the Blue Division. St. Ignatius kind of took it to St. Louis University High School out of Missouri, 56-21, triple option in full effect. Really, just a game they handled pretty easily from the start. So good to get good for the Wolf Pack to get off on the right foot and take care of business against St. Louis University.
Yeah, and a guy that we talked up in our one of our preview episodes, their quarterback Wansong, I think he ran for 3 touchdowns and threw for another touchdown in this game. So
he's pretty good.
What we thought he was going to be, he was actually that, in game 1, especially here. So
pretty good, all-state type player, no doubt about it.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So we finish with Joe. What's probably our biggest surprise of the week? I mean, I was surprised Thursday, but it was more because I didn't really know what to expect from Hun and from a personnel or history standpoint. This is a big surprise. So Loyola Academy loses to East St. Louis 34-7 um, at ISU. East St. Louis, I mean, it was in control pretty much the whole game. I think they had a turnover on their first series, but were up big at half and kind of walked away from Loyola.
Yeah, this was a big surprise. Well, I shouldn't say a big surprise, but it
Right,
was a
right.
surprise, right?
Yes.
Um,
I guess it's
but
a big surprise that it was 34-7, right?
34-7, yeah, I think that's what surprised me more than anything is that
Yeah.
it was yeah, Loyola made some mistakes. They had some penalties, which held them down a bit, especially at the start of the game. But for East St. Louis just to dominate in the way they did in all three facets of the game, offense and defense and special teams, and to dominate a team like Loyola, that was a huge surprise to me.
Yeah, the biggest surprise to me was the quarterback stats for East St. Louis. He was 23 out of 26.
Right.
I mean, that is picking someone apart. That is, so that you mentioned Mount Carmel's pass defense. I've got to wonder about Loyola's pass defense. And so again, great opponents on for both those teams. Great, 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 great opponents. So we'll see how it plays out. But I'll be interested to see if teams try and do that against Loyola and Mount Carmel to see if they can't find the weakness in the defensive backfield that East St. Louis found this past weekend.
Yeah. So from a coaching perspective, Dan, and what do you do if you're, Coach Deschereaux here? Do you just say we're forgetting about this game and we are going forward, or do you try and address some things that? Well, obviously he'll address some things that he saw that were mistakes or other things like that. But in some cases, I would think you just maybe want to say, you know what, let's forget about this game. We're not talking about it. Let's move on.
Yeah, for Loyola, it might be different. Yeah, there might be some new faces. I don't know if you'd want to do that. The whole flush it thing this early. I don't necessarily love that. Anymore. I think that's kind of yeah. Well, we don't want to talk about it because we don't like it. I think if there are times when that makes sense, but I think they can probably learn from it and learn a lot. So I study that film pretty hard. What I don't do is make wholesale changes either. I mean, they've got, you've got to give players a little bit of a chance to get their footing, to come back from a tough loss like that. You want to see how they respond because that's really what this is all about, and you'd like to say, well, we can make sure we have our stuff together for week 2, but boy, Glenbard West, it is, now it'll be 2 teams, 2 highly ranked, highly thought of teams coming off a loss. One of these teams, Loyola or Glenbard West, is going to be 0-2 go after week 2. So,
Thought that.
Yeah, and it really gives you a chance to to see what you're made of because they're both facing some adversity now. So they both can point to great opponents week 1. So it's not like they had these surprise losses to people out of nowhere. But it'll be interesting to see how both teams come out week 2 and in a really tough place to play at Glenbard West. So we'll see how Loyola responds. I'm anticipating that it's going to be a positive response, but every season is different, even with players back. So we'll see how it goes this week.
Yeah. All right. Well, good. Yeah, we're looking forward to week 2. That's our week 1 recap or quick hits, around the CCL. We'll do the same thing next week. We also we'll have our Friday Night Blitz episode coming up this Friday, which will be live again. So people, you'll want to join us for that. So look for more information. We'll put that information out there over the course of the week so people can join that. But one more thing, Dan. Who's the dog of the week again?
Congratulations to Montini defensive back Isaac Alexander. He is Zuko's dog of the week this week. So congratulations to Isaac. Well done, well deserved. And like I said, we'll Zuko and I'll pay him a visit at practice sometime soon. Hopefully, if we're allowed.
If we're allowed. Hey, you can't bring dogs out on the field.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Zuko won't like that.
Yeah. All right. No, he won't like that at all. Yeah. And you don't want to get on the wrong side of Zuko either.
Nope.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for this episode of the Varsity Voices podcast. Make sure you tune in for our next episode, which will be next Friday. It'll be our second Friday Night Blitz episode. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, or like us on wherever you're listening from. We're on X, we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook. We're all over, Dan. So, and if people want to comment, do that. You want to email us, varsityvoices312 at gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in, and make sure you come back for our next episode.